The bitter harvest. There are wounds made by knives, and wounds made by desire. A knife may cut the flesh once, but greed cuts the soul again and again, until even love cannot recognize what remains. In this life, many people fear poverty, so they chase wealth without asking whether their hands remain clean. They believe that if they gain enough, take enough, hold enough, they can outrun suffering. But cause and effect is patient. When a man sows cruelty, he should not pray for peace. When a man feeds greed, he should not be surprised when it grows teeth. And when a father fills his house with wrongdoing, sometimes it is the child who must carry the thirst. Today, I will tell you a story, not to frighten you, but to remind you. He who sows the wind will one day reap the storm. In a small village where the rice fields shone like gold under the sun, there lived a man named Ba Hung. Ba Hung was the richest trader in 3 villages. He bought low, sold high, and lent rice to the hungry with a smile sharp enough to cut skin. To strangers, he looked successful. To his neighbors, he looked dangerous. One morning, an old villager named Tam came to him, frail, trembling, and desperate. He begged for a little rice. His grandson was sick. He promised to repay every grain after harvest. But Ba Hung had no interest in mercy. He reminded the old man of an unpaid debt, then took his land as payment. He tossed a tiny sack of rice onto the ground and watched the old man kneel to gather the spilled grains with shaking hands. That day, the whole village lowered its eyes. Not because Ba Hung was right, but because power often speaks the loudest where hunger lives. At home that night, Ba Hung sat before a full meal while his wife Lin barely touched hers. She warned him that he had taken enough from people who had nothing. But Ba Hung only laughed. He said there was no such thing as enough. He said a man who stopped gathering would lose everything he had. Their young son, Kiet, asked a simple question. Why was the old man crying? Ba Hung answered coldly. Because weak people cry when strong people make decisions. And in that moment, the boy learned his first lesson about power, not from truth, but from the darkness inside his father. Time passed. Then one stormy night, a wounded stranger collapsed near Ba Hung's storehouse. His name was Fong. He was dirty, hungry, half dead, and begged to be saved. Ba Hung did not help him out of kindness. He helped him because even a broken man could still be made useful. Fong recovered quickly. He worked hard. He carried sacks, kept records, followed orders, and soon became Ba Hung's most trusted hand. He spoke the language Ba Hung liked to hear. He told him that fear was useful. He told him the villagers hated him because they feared him. And fear, he said, was power. Lin heard these words and felt dread. She warned her husband not to trust a man who spoke that way. But Ba Hung brushed her aside. He believed Fong was loyal because he had saved him. But a man blinded by his own cunning often mistakes a predator for a servant. Late one night, Fong met secretly with a group of thieves in the forest. By lantern light, he told them where Ba Hung kept his silver, where he hid the land deeds, and when the guards would be too drunk to fight. He planned everything. The fire, the robbery, the fall. The very man Ba Hung had brought into his house was now sharpening the knife meant for his back. Then the storm came. In the middle of the night, flames erupted from Ba Hung's warehouse. The sky turned orange. Dogs barked. Villagers shouted. Servants ran in panic. Ba Hung rushed outside, not to save people, but to save his wealth. In the chaos, masked men attacked. He fought wildly through smoke and ash until he saw Fong near the red chest that held his most valuable papers. For a moment, time stopped. Ba Hung called his name in disbelief. Fong removed his face covering and looked at him without fear. He told Ba Hung, "You taught me well. Take first. Feel nothing." The thieves beat Ba Hung to the ground. They stole the silver, the deeds, and everything they could carry. The warehouse collapsed in flames behind them. Lin screamed for her husband to come back, but Ba Hung crawled through mud and burning debris, still reaching for wealth as if it were life itself. When greed becomes worship, loss feels like death. By morning, only blackened ruins remained. The villagers gathered. No one offered comfort. One said he had taken an old man's field. Another said he had seized an ox from a sick family. Another said the storm had finally found his roof too. Then old Tam stepped forward. He said, "A man can lock his doors against thieves, but he cannot lock his life against what he has done." Ba Hung stood bruised and speechless, surrounded not by enemies, but by memories of every wrong he had ever committed. The fall came quickly after that. Without the stolen silver, his debts swallowed him. His ledgers were exposed. His business collapsed. Lin became ill under the weight of shame and grief. Yet, now older, watched his father decay under the burden of his own choices. Ba Hung still tried to call it temporary. He still believed he could rebuild. But Lin told him the truth. The house had not burned because of bad luck. It had burned because of him. Some punishments do not come with swords. They come with mirrors. Years passed. Ba Hung never became rich again. His body weakened, but his pride clung to him like smoke. And while he carried bitterness, his son carried the consequence. Hiet grew into a humble young man. He worked wherever he could, repairing fences, carrying goods, doing day labor, trying to earn an honest living. But everywhere he went, people saw not the son, but the father. At one house, a woman turned him away the moment she learned his name. At another, men whispered that bad roots grow bitter fruit. At the tea stall, they said, like father, like son. Hiet lowered his head and endured it. The boy who once asked why an old man cried had become a man punished for tears he never caused. One evening, after another day of rejection, Hiet returned home exhausted. He told his father that no one would hire him, not because of his own actions, but because they only saw Ba Hung in his face. Ba Hung muttered that the world was unfair. And for the first time, Hiet answered him with the truth. Was it unfair to old Tam? Was it unfair to the families you ruined? Was it unfair when mother begged you to stop? Then he said the words that finally pierced the old man's heart. I am the one paying for what you built. The room fell silent. That night, rain tapped softly on the roof. Ba Hung stared into darkness and at last began to confess. He said that when he was young, he had been hungry all the time. He had sworn no one would ever make him kneel. So he became the kind of man who made others kneel first. He thought strength meant taking. He thought winning meant never feeling shame. But shame does not disappear. It waits. He admitted that he had fed a snake because he himself had lived like one. He admitted he had lost everything because nothing he built was clean. And then he looked at his son and said the hardest truth of all. You were born carrying my name like a punishment. Hiet listened in tears. Then he told his father that if repentance meant anything, he had to stop hiding. He had to tell the village the truth. The next morning, beneath the great banyan tree, the villagers gathered. Weak and trembling, Ba Hung stood before them supported by his son. He confessed everything. He said he had stolen from hunger. He said he had mocked the poor. He said he had taken what was not morally his. He said he had taught his son pride when he should have taught him mercy. Then he turned to old Tam and asked forgiveness. Though he knew forgiveness could not erase the wound, he offered what little he had left, his house, his last field, his remaining dignity, to those he had wronged first. The villagers stood in stunned silence. Old Tam looked at him for a long time. Then he said, late repentance does not erase the wound, but it may stop the knife from cutting deeper. And then he looked at Hiet and gave him the first mercy he had ever received. The son is not the father. That single sentence lifted a burden heavier than years of labor. Later, at home, Ba Hung lay on his mat, weaker than ever. He asked his son one final question. Do you hate me? Hiet struggled to answer. Then he said, I hated what your choices did to us. But I do not want to carry hate the way you carried greed. Ba Hung wept. And in his final moment, he understood that his son, through suffering, had become a better man than he had ever been through power. Ba Hung closed his eyes for the last time. But the story did not end there. Hiet returned old Tam's deed. He worked honestly. He endured the shame he had inherited, but did not pass it on. And slowly, very slowly, the village began to accept him. Not because they forgot the past, but because they saw that he had chosen not to repeat it. And so, the chain of suffering was broken. Now do you see? The storm did not begin when the fire came. It began the moment greed entered Ba Hung's heart, and he called it wisdom. He thought cruelty was strength. He thought wealth was safety. He thought he could wound others and remain unwounded himself. But no one escapes the seeds they plant. The bitterest truth is this. Our actions do not end with us. They travel through our homes, through the hearts of those who love us, through the lives of our children. That is why the old people said, the father eats salt, and the child thirsts. Yet this story is not only about punishment. It is also about awakening. Because the son did what the father could not. He chose honesty over pride. He chose endurance over resentment. He chose to end the chain of suffering instead of passing it on. Remember this well. Greed may win you a season, but compassion builds a lifetime. A cruel man may be feared, but only a righteous one is remembered with peace. And if you have inherited pain from those who came before you, you are not doomed to become them. You may stop. You may turn back. You may plant something better. The harvest of karma is certain, but so is the healing power of a good heart. Guard your heart before you guard your fortune. For fortune lost may return, but a corrupted soul leaves thirst for generations.